How many people do you think actually make it out of these mountains once the fog rolls in? It's like the radio frequencies start to bleed into voices that haven't been alive for a century.
You see the news reports and the frantic pleas from families on social media.
You think it's just a bad step on a loose slope, but the official files are a work of fiction. When I started this job, I was a believer in logic and the science of tracking.
My father taught me that if you respect the wilderness, it respects you back.
The first site was empty, just a tent shredded as if by a clawed hand. A thermos of coffee was sitting on a flat stone, but the liquid had turned a thick, oily black. I called it in, and for the first time, I was told to stand down. They arrived in unmarked trucks, men in gray windbreakers holding folders with a red seal I didn't recognize. He handed me a file, a thick stack of paper that looked like a ledger of ghosts. That was the moment my life as a public servant ended and my life as a witness began. There are corridors of ancient rock that seem to act like tuning forks for something we aren't meant to hear. I found markers, strange piles of bone and riverstone that didn't belong to any history I knew. The tension started to mount when I realized I was being watched by my own department. My partner told me to bury the truth before it buried me. The frequencies were always the same, a low, rhythmic thrumming that sounded like a heartbeat. If you look long enough at the patterns in the bark, you can see faces. I took a hike out to the most restricted zone, the valley they call the Devil's Throat. The woods were quiet, not the silence of a calm night, but the silence of a funeral. I finally reached the Devil's Throat. The air felt like it was made of lead. Even the birds had stopped singing. Then I saw it, a ripple in the air, like a warped lens. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. They were standing there. The missing ones. They weren't dead, but they weren't alive either. They were praying to something in the light. I tried to take a picture, but nothing happened. The air got heavy, like it was made of lead. Something was pressing down on me. Then I heard it. It was my father's voice, calling my name. He'd been dead for 10 years. The woods were hungry, it told me. They weren't protecting us from the force. They were feeding it. I turned and ran. I left everything behind. I didn't stop until I hit the pavement. I resigned the next day. They didn't even try to stop me. They knew I'd seen the ledger. The files aren't just paperwork. They're a map of where the world is thin. And now you know the truth. Stay on the pavement. Stay in the light. The forest is always watching. I still keep the maps. Every line on these pages is a place I shouldn't have gone. It's like the mountains are still calling me back. These notes were my only way to keep my head straight. I saw patterns in the woods that didn't belong to any map. They were warnings, plain and simple. I knew they were watching me. My own people, the ones I trusted, they wanted me to bury the truth. It felt like the walls were closing in. My partner, he was terrified. He told me he saw something standing at the edge of the woods. Something that wasn't human. I spent every night listening to the scatter. The same rhythmic thrumming, like a heartbeat. And then, the voices. People weren't just going missing. They were becoming part of the woods. If you look at the bark long enough, you can see them. I had to go to the Devil's Throat. I didn't go for the agency. I went to prove the silence was a lie. The woods were quiet. Not the silence of a calm night. It was the silence of a funeral. Then I saw the gate, a ripple in the light, warping the trees. And there they were, the missing. I turned and ran. I left everything behind. But the truth, it never really leaves you. I felt a weight press down on my shoulders like the whole mountain range. Then it whispered my name, using my father's voice. Even though he'd been gone for 10 years, it told me I could keep my life, but I'd never sleep again. The woods were hungry, and the government was just feeding them to keep the rest of the world quiet. I turned and ran, leaving everything behind. The camera, the notes, the badge. I didn't stop until I hit the paved road and heard human music on the radio again. I resigned the next day, and they didn't even try to stop me. They knew I'd seen the ledger, and they figured the truth was heavy enough to keep me quiet. These files aren't just paperwork. They're a map of the places where the world is thin. Every time you wander off the path, you're walking into a trap that's been set for generations. The government knows. The rangers know. And now you know. If you're out there camping or just looking for a view, listen to me carefully. Go back to your vehicle and lock the doors. Don't answer if you hear a voice calling your name from the dark, especially if it's someone you love. The woods are calling, but they aren't inviting you in. They're waiting for you to make a mistake, so stay on the pavement and stay in the light. Out here, in the deep, unmapped silence, you are never truly alone. The forest is always watching, so stay out of the woods for your own sake. How many people do you think actually make it out of these mountains? Once the fog rolls in and the radio frequencies start to bleed into voices that haven't been alive for a century.
I still look at the maps sometimes,
Just to see where the lines don't add up.
They told me to burn it all.
Like if I just destroyed the paper, the truth would go up in smoke too. Those men in the gray jackets didn't care about the evidence. They just looked at the trees like they were waiting for something to happen. That ledger was the end of my life as a public servant. It was the start of something else entirely. These mountains aren't just rock and dirt. There's something in the ground that's been listening for a long time. I found markers deep in the hollows. Piles of bone and stone that didn't belong to any history I knew.
I knew they were watching me.
I'd find my truck searched, my notes gone, and my partner looking at me like I was a ghost. My partner was terrified. He told me he saw something 7 feet tall standing at the edge of the woods.
I'd listen to the scanner all night.
The frequencies were always the same, a heartbeat, and then my own voice calling out coordinates. If you look long enough at the trees, you can see faces. And if you listen to the wind, you can hear names. I decided to head out to the most restricted zone, the valley they call the Devil's Throat. The map just says it's unstable terrain, but I didn't go for the agency. I went to prove that the silence was a lie. The woods were quiet, not the silence of a calm night. It was the silence of a church where a funeral is about to begin. Every bird had stopped singing, and the moss was so thick it muffled my own heartbeat. That's when I saw the gate. It wasn't a fence, but a shimmering distortion in the air, a ripple in the light. It made the trees behind it look like they were being viewed through a warped lens. And there, standing in front of it, were the missing. They weren't dead, and they weren't alive in any way that makes sense. They were standing in a circle, their eyes turned to the sky, their mouths moving in a perfect, synchronized prayer. I held my breath, my camera raised, but the shutter wouldn't click. The air grew heavy, like it was made of lead. I felt a presence behind me, not a human, but a weight that pressed down on my shoulders. It whispered my name, using the voice of my father, the man who had been dead for 10 years. It told me that if I left, I could keep my life, but I would lose my ability to ever sleep again. It told me that the woods were hungry.
I turned and ran, leaving everything behind: the camera, the notes, the badge.
I didn't stop until I hit the paved road. I didn't look back until the sun was high and the radio was playing human music again. I resigned the next day. They didn't even try to stop me. They knew I had seen the ledger, and they knew that the truth was heavy enough to keep me silent.
You see, the files aren't just paperwork.
They're a map of the places where the world is thin. The government knows, the rangers know, and now you know. Stay on the pavement, stay in the light. Because out here, in the deep, unmapped silence, you are never truly alone. The forest is always watching. I sit here in the quiet, but the silence feels different now. It's like the woods followed me home, waiting for me to slip up. I still have the map, though it's not much use anymore. Every line on this paper leads to a place you shouldn't ever go. Do you hear that? It's that same low thrumming from the ridge. It's like the mountain itself is breathing, waiting for a response.
I can't get their faces out of my head.
They weren't just lost. They were being changed into something else. I'm writing it all down, even if nobody ever reads it. It's the only way to keep the truth from fading away. Look at this mess. It's just a ledger of ghosts now. I'm just another part of the story I was trying to stop. That wasn't just thunder. I know what that sound is. The woods are getting closer. They're hungry for more. I lock the door, but we both know it doesn't really matter. If they want in, they'll find a way through the cracks. My father always told me to respect the woods. He never told me what happens when the woods stop respecting you back. I'm not gonna stop, not until the whole world knows. Stay in the light, because the dark is waiting for you. I can't just sit here and wait for them to come for me. The scanner is my only way to hear what's really happening out there. There it is again. That heartbeat. That's my voice. How is it using my own voice to call out those coordinates? I need to stop listening. If I keep listening, I'm just gonna end up like the rest of them. Are those faces? I must be losing my mind. I shouldn't go out there, but I have to know. Who's there? I know you're watching me.
These markers, they're everywhere.
They're not just rocks.
Oh, God.
It's here. Don't look back.
Just keep running. I finally hit the pavement, my lungs just burning. I collapsed right there, just trying to catch my breath.
I kept staring back at those trees, waiting for something to follow. My hands wouldn't stop shaking as I reached for my keys. That low hum from the woods was still ringing in my ears. I scrambled into the truck and locked the doors tight. I didn't look back. I just drove. The radio finally kicked on, playing some old country song. It felt like a lifeline. Hearing something human again. The next morning, the sun was out, but I couldn't feel it. I sat there with my resignation letter, ready to walk away. The truth I'd seen felt like it was sitting right there with me. I dropped the letter in the box and didn't look back. I knew they were watching, but honestly, I didn't care anymore. My silence was just what they wanted, and I was done with it. I started packing, just the basics. Looking at all my old gear, it felt like looking at a stranger's life. That man who loved these woods, he didn't exist anymore. I stood on the porch one last time, watching the fog roll in. It was swallowing the trees, just like it always does. I knew the forest was still out there, waiting for the next person to make a mistake. I drove away, and I didn't look back once. The cabin just faded into the trees, like it was never there. I'm leaving the mountains, but I know they're never gonna leave me. I finally hit the highway, and the traffic felt like a blessing. I pulled into a gas station just to see some normal life. The air here didn't smell like the woods, and that was enough for me. I looked at myself in the window, and I barely recognized the guy staring back. I've got a long road ahead, but I'm finally moving toward the light. I'm leaving that silence behind, at least for now.
I sat in the diner, the lights buzzing like a hive.
My hands wouldn't stop shaking, even with the coffee. I watched everyone else, just living their normal lives. I pulled out the old map, tracing the lines of the northern sector.
The truth is buried deep under all their official lies.
I wonder if I'm the only one who knows what's really out there. The sky turned a bruised purple as the sun started to dip. I could still feel the mountains pulling at me from miles away. I can't go back, but I can't ever really leave it behind. I sat in the truck, just listening to the silence. I kept thinking about that ledger and the red seal. Those men in the gray Windbreakers are still out there, guarding the gate. I hit the highway, just letting the road pull me along. Everything felt like it was moving on without me. I kept my eyes on the pavement, refusing to look at the trees. I pulled into a motel, the neon sign buzzing in the dark. The key card felt heavy, like it was made of lead. I locked the door and checked the bolt twice, just to be safe. I sat on the bed, and the silence just filled the room. I kept seeing their faces, turned up to the sky. Are they still standing there, waiting for something that's never coming? I turned on the TV just to hear some human noise. The weather report said a storm was moving through the mountains. I felt a chill, knowing exactly what that storm brings with it. I tried to sleep, but the forest was right there behind my eyes. I could see the faces in the bark and hear the names in the wind. There's nowhere on earth I can hide from that kind of silence. I sat up in the dark, just looking at my hands. I have to keep moving, to keep the truth alive. I'm a witness now, and this story is only just beginning. I know what's waiting in there. It's not just trees and rocks anymore. It's a trap that's been set for a long, long time. I kept these notes for a reason. They're a map of the places where the world gets thin. Every mark here is a warning I ignored. You can feel the air change when you get close. It's like the forest is holding its breath, waiting for you to make one wrong move. If you look long enough, you'll see them. The faces in the bark. They're not just trees anymore. They're memories. The scanner never lies. It just repeats what the woods want you to hear. A heartbeat that doesn't belong to anything living. These aren't just rocks. They're markers. Warnings of what's currently happening in these woods. I'm not alone out here. I can feel them watching me, waiting for me to make a mistake. I need to get out of here. Now, before the fog swallows me whole. I made it. But I don't think I'm ever really leaving. The forest is still watching. Now you know. The woods are always waiting, and you're never truly alone. I sat there on the hot pavement, just trying to catch my breath. The silence of the woods was finally replaced by the hum of a distant car. My hands wouldn't stop shaking, no matter how hard I tried to steady them. I pulled the ledger out, the red string looking like a fresh wound. Every page was a reminder of the places I shouldn't have gone. I realized then that the truth was a weight I'd be carrying forever. I looked up at the ridge, knowing they were watching me. My resignation wouldn't be enough to keep them from coming for these notes. I stood up, my legs stiff, and started walking back to my truck. I reached for the door handle, but I stopped. I remembered the microphones I'd found under the dash. I decided to leave the truck behind and just walk. I walked down the center of the road, keeping away from the trees. Every sound of the wind made me flinch, but I kept moving. I was leaving behind the badge, the life, and the man I used to be. The sun started to set, and the shadows stretched out like fingers. I pulled my jacket tighter, feeling the cold settle in. I knew the forest would wake up soon, and I didn't want to be here. I found an old gas station at the edge of the pass. The lights were flickering, and the place smelled like rot. It was empty, just dust and old newspapers everywhere. I sat on the floor and opened the ledger one last time. I started tearing out the pages, one by one. I had to destroy them if I ever wanted to be free. I struck a match and set the pile on fire. The flames danced, lighting up the room. I watched as all those secrets turned to ash. I walked out of that place, leaving the ashes behind. I headed for the main road, finally feeling like I could breathe. I'm out of the woods now, and I'm never looking back. The sun finally hits the pavement, but it doesn't feel like warmth. I'm standing here on the shoulder, watching the world go by like nothing happened. It's loud out here, and for the first time in years, that noise is a relief. My boots are still caked in that mountain mud. I keep my head down, just trying to blend in with the morning commute. Every passing car feels like a threat, like they know exactly where I've been. The smell of this place is just grease and burnt coffee. It's so normal in here, it's almost hard to believe. People are just laughing and eating, not knowing what's waiting for them out there. I just need something to wake me up. Looking into this cup, I see a man I don't even recognize anymore. I wonder if I'll ever be able to close my eyes without seeing that gate. There's another one on the news. They're saying he just wandered off the trail, but I know better. That's the same sector where I found that Kent. I could stand up and tell them everything right now. But they just look at me like I'm some crazy old man. The truth is a heavy thing to carry when nobody wants to hear it. I need to get out of here. Just keep moving. It feels like those trees are still watching me, even from miles away. I'm not safe yet, not until I'm a long way from these ridges. I could call him, but what would I even say? They're probably listening to every call he makes anyway. I can't drag him into this, not after everything he's already seen. I'm the only one left who knows the truth. If I don't write this down, it's like it never happened. I've got to find a way to make sure someone else knows. I'm finally leaving it all behind. But I know the mountains are still there, waiting. I'm just a witness now, and that's a job I'll have for the rest of my life. The mountains are fading in the rearview mirror, but I can still feel them watching me. I'm just a ghost now, carrying a story nobody wants to hear. I kept these notes for years. They're the only proof I have left. If they find these, I'm as good as gone. Every stop feels like a trap. I keep waiting for those unmarked trucks to pull up. But for now, the road is just a road. Look at these headlines. People are worried about taxes and football. They have no idea what's actually out there. Just another face in the crowd. That's all I need to be now. Invisible. I'm leaving it all behind. The trees, the silence, the fear, but I don't think I'll ever really be free. Don't listen to it. It's just the engine. Just the road. Human music. It's the best thing I've heard in years. It's gonna be okay. Look at all those lights. The city is safe. The city is alive. I'm finally here. The silence is gone. Now, it's time to tell the truth. The city's loud, but it's a different kind of noise. I'm still looking over my shoulder, just in case. Found a spot that's quiet enough to think. It's not the woods, but it'll do for now.
These notes are all I've got left.
They're just scribbles, but they tell a story.
Just need a little something to eat.
Keep it simple. That's the plan. The rain's coming down hard now. It's washing everything away. Or at least, that's what I hope. I can still hear it, even in the middle of all this.
It's like a heartbeat. Constant and cold.
I gotta get out of here. Staying in one place is just asking for trouble. Every step takes me further away. But I don't know if I'm ever really gonna be free. It doesn't matter where I'm going, just as long as it's away. The city's already starting to disappear. Maybe, just maybe, I can find a way to sleep again. The woods are behind me now, and I'm not looking back. The train car is nearly empty, bathed in flickering, sickly yellow light. I stare at my reflection in the dark window, seeing a man I barely recognize anymore. I realize that the distance I've put between myself and the mountains is just physical. I reach into my pocket and pull out the silver wedding band I haven't worn in years. It feels heavy, a cold anchor to a life that feels like it belonged to someone else. I turn the ring over in my calloused fingers, the metal catching the dim light. The train begins to slow as it approaches a desolate rural station in the middle of the night. Outside, the landscape is nothing but shadows and silhouettes of trees that look too familiar. I feel a sudden sharp spike of anxiety, my hand instinctively moving to my collar. I step off the train onto the platform, the air biting and cold. There is no one else around, just the low hum of the station's single flickering light. I stand there for a moment, listening to the silence, waiting for the familiar thrumming to start. I walk toward the edge of the station, where the pavement ends and the gravel begins. I know I should keep walking toward the town, but my feet are drawn toward the tree line. The forest is calling, a low, rhythmic pull that I can feel in my very bones. I stop, forcing myself to turn away from the trees. I remind myself that I am a witness, not a participant, and that my duty is to warn others. Pull my jacket tighter and start walking toward the distant, dim lights of the town. As I walk, I hear a voice calling my name from the darkness. It's my father's voice, clear and unmistakable, echoing through the trees. I freeze, my heart hammering against my ribs, knowing I shouldn't answer, but unable to stop myself from looking back. I see a figure standing at the edge of the tree line, tall and indistinct in the fog. It doesn't move, but I can feel it watching me, a heavy, oppressive presence that makes the air feel thick. I turn and run, not looking back again. I reach the town, my lungs burning and my legs shaking. I find a payphone under a flickering street lamp and fumble for a coin, my hands still trembling. I need to call someone, anyone, to tell them what I've seen, but I don't know who to trust. I stare at the receiver, the dial tone a steady, monotonous hum that feels like a lifeline. I realize that the only way to survive is to keep moving, to keep the truth alive, and to never go back. I hang up the phone and walk into the night, a witness with a heavy burden. I found a place to crash, but sleep isn't coming easy tonight. The neon sign outside just keeps blinking, like it's trying to tell me something. I've got all these notes, but they don't make any sense when I look at them now. Maybe I should just burn the whole thing and forget I ever saw it. Who'd be knocking at this hour? I'm not opening that door for anyone. There's nobody out there, but the air feels wrong. It's that same rhythm again, like a heartbeat. I thought I was safe here, but I was wrong. The woods, they're not just a place, they're a part of me now. I just saw someone in the glass, but when I looked again, it was just me.
My mind is playing tricks on me. Or maybe it's something worse.
I've got to get out of here, right now. I can't stay in this room another minute.
The air feels different out here, like something's waiting.
I just need to get to the truck and drive.
No, not again! Please, not again!
I can see it standing there, watching me. I'm not looking back. I'm just going to drive until the sun comes up. I'm getting out of here, no matter what it takes. I'm driving as fast as I dare, but the fog is thick as wool. Every shadow in the rearview mirror looks like it's reaching for me. The radio starts acting up again, just like it did back in the valley. It's that same rhythmic thrumming, like a heartbeat right inside the dashboard. I shouldn't have taken this ledger, but I couldn't leave it behind. The sketches on the pages, they look like they're moving when I'm not looking directly at them. Come on, don't do this to me now. The engine just died, and now the silence is so loud it's ringing in my ears. I have to get out of here, even if I have to walk. The air is freezing, and the fog is so thick I can't even see the hood of my truck. Did you hear that? It sounded just like my old man. I know it's not him, but it's so hard to just keep walking. I can't listen to it. I just have to run. The trees are everywhere. It's like they're trying to block my path. Oh no, not here, not in this spot. These stones, they're the same ones from the files. I'm right in the middle of a marker. Oh, it's happening again. The air is starting to ripple. I need to move, but my legs feel like they're made of lead.
Just keep moving. Don't look back. Just get to the road.
I know it's watching me, but I'm not gonna let it take me. I finally hit the pavement, my lungs screaming for air. I collapsed right there, shaking like a leaf in the wind. I looked back at the trees, just waiting for something to reach out. The woods were dead silent, just watching me like a predator. The sun finally started to peek over the ridge. I felt a little relief, but the weight of it all was still there. I found this old gas station, just a relic of a different time. I reached for the phone, but who was I even gonna call? I walked away, knowing I had to just disappear. People were starting their day, totally clueless about what was out there. I holed up in a cheap motel, just trying to keep it together. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them standing there in that circle.
I started writing it all down, every single detail I could remember.
It was my only way to fight back, to make sure the truth didn't just vanish. I hid the notes under the floorboards, hoping someone would find them one day. It was a cycle that had been going on for way too long. I walked out into the light, knowing I was probably being watched. I kept my eyes peeled for those guys in the gray jackets. I got on the bus and finally felt my heart slow down. Looking back at those mountains, I knew I was finally done. The bus winds through the mountain passes, putting miles between me and those woods. I watch the ridgelines fade, feeling a strange, hollow sense of detachment. Everyone around me is just living their lives, totally oblivious to what's out there. I pull this old map out, tracing the trails I used to walk every single day. My fingers are shaking, just touching the spots marked as unstable. I left the files behind, but the map is burned into my brain forever. The bus pulls into a city I don't even recognize. I step off, feeling the weight of everything pressing down on me. I'm just a ghost in this crowd now, trying to find somewhere quiet. I find this quiet little diner and grab a booth in the back. I'm just watching the door, waiting for something to happen. I don't know if I'm waiting for the agency or the woods to catch up. I keep thinking about my partner and how he told me to bury the truth. He was right, you know? The truth just ends up consuming you. I look into my coffee, and all I see is that black, oily mess from the woods. I walk out into the city, but everything just feels like a blur. It's like I'm stuck in a dream, and the city doesn't feel real at all. I've got to keep moving. I've got to stay ahead of that silence. I head to the library and start digging for anything on the missing people. There's nothing. Not a single report or a name anywhere. They've scrubbed it all clean, like they never even existed. That ledger was the only record, and now it's gone. I close my eyes and try to pull up every single symbol and name I saw. I'm the only one left who knows the truth, and that makes me a target. I walk out into the night, but the city just feels so cold. I can't stay in one place. I know they're watching me. I pull my jacket tight, just trying to hold on to this secret. I look up at the sky, but the city lights hide all the stars. I wonder if the forest is watching me, even here, in the middle of all this. The silence is everywhere, just waiting for me to slip up. I found a place to hide, just a cheap motel on the edge of town. I pushed the dresser against the door, just to be safe. I caught my reflection in the mirror and barely recognized the man looking back. The woods took more than just my peace of mind. They took my soul. I keep the radio on, hoping to hear something, anything that makes sense. But all I get is static, that same white noise that follows me everywhere. Then the static breaks, and I hear it, my own voice coming through the speaker. It's repeating the coordinates, the ones I visited in the valley. I couldn't take it anymore, so I smashed the damn thing to pieces. I just want it to stop. I just want to be left alone. I packed my bag and got out of there. I knew they were coming. I didn't look back, even when I heard that sound again. I drove until the city lights were just a memory in the rearview mirror. But I know the woods are still out there, waiting for me. I stopped for gas in the middle of nowhere, just to keep moving. I could feel them watching me from the edge of the trees. There's no going back now. I'm a marked man. I just have to keep driving, stay in the light, and never look back. I pulled over to look at the mountains one last time. They're still out there, waiting for someone to make a mistake. I stand here looking out at these ridges, knowing exactly what's hiding in the mist. It's not just a beautiful view, it's a map of places where the world is thin. I spent years mapping these anomalies on my own time. The official trails are a lie, and I've got the real map right here. I found markers deep in the woods, piles of bone and stone placed at perfect intervals. They weren't from any history I knew. They were warnings of the present. My partner was terrified, his hands shaking as he told me what he saw. He whispered about a 7-foot-tall thing talking to the men in gray windbreakers. I spent my nights listening to the scanner, waiting for that rhythmic heartbeat. It wasn't just that people were going missing. They were being integrated into the landscape. I hiked into the Devil's Throat, the most restricted zone in the valley. The woods were dead silent, like a church before a funeral. I saw the gate, a ripple in the air that made the trees look warped. The missing were standing in a circle, praying to something I couldn't see. A weight pressed down on me, and I heard my father's voice whispering my name. It told me the woods were hungry, and the government was feeding them. I ran, leaving everything behind, and didn't stop until I hit the pavement. I resigned the next day, but I knew the truth would never leave me. Stay on the pavement, stay in the light, and never answer if you hear your name. The forest is always watching, and it's waiting for you to make a mistake.
I sit here in the quiet, but the silence feels different now.
It's like the mountains followed me home, waiting for me to slip up.
Every time I look in the mirror, I see the trees.
I see the faces in the bark, and I hear them calling my name.
I checked the locks, but I know they don't really matter.
The woods are out there, and they're always watching. I thought I'd left it all behind, but the truth is a heavy burden. It's a map of the places where the world is fim. Stay on the pavement and stay in the light. Because out here, you're never truly alone.